All right, we are continuing these kind of impromptu horror videos. I was trying to think of movies that I could talk about that I haven't really covered in the past years. One I saw recently that is doing pretty well in theaters, and there's already been a lot of coverage on it, is the remake of It, or rather the first theatrical version of It, since people seem to forget that the original was not a theatrical film; it was a miniseries. When I haven't read very much Stephen King. I can count how many novels I've read of his on one hand. The Stand, Hearts in Atlantis, and I think that's it. I'm in the middle of reading It right now, and I don't want to say it's a hard read. It's like, a 1,200 paged book, and it just, from what I'm reading right now, he could have easily cut out half of that. It's just kind of a sluggish read for me right now. I'm not very far into it yet, but between the theatrical film and the TV series, which I've seen both of one time, I kind of know what to expect by now. Basically, in a sentence, I liked it. It was good. It wasn't great. I'm not going to give it as much praise as a lot of the other critics are giving it. I wouldn't put it up there with The Shawshank Redemption, because that's one of my favorite movies. I wouldn't put it up there with Stand By Me, although the best part about this story, a lot would argue, is the relationship with the kids and making the kids feel very realistic. And that's one of the things that I felt this did much better than the TV version, was because it's theatrical and it's rated R, the kids could actually act like kids. And I like that. I think a lot of people like that and can relate to that. The one thing I don't really understand, all the flaws in this, it seems to be because of the flaws of the source material. Stephen King is very good at coming of age stories. He's very good at telling these kind of stories with kids and about youth and things like that. That's why I loved Hearts in Atlantis. It's very much that kind of story. Stand By Me, which is based on a novella he did called The Body. Same thing. And it's got a great cast too, but that was a Stephen King story originally. He is very good at crafting those kinds of stories. Even The Stand, which is not necessarily a coming of age story, but that is a great lesson in character development. I'm not particularly keen about the third act of The Stand. I thought it was kind of cheesy, but that book is like one of my favorite books, regardless. I only saw the TV series one time, and it was like 5 years ago when I saw it on DVD. I rented it from Netflix because I saw the nostalgia critic Doug Walker's review of it, and I was kind of curious. And it was very cheesy, and like a lot of the stuff with the adults, even with John Ritter in there, could not save the movie. The stuff with the adults I thought was awful. Although I did like the bond between the characters, that was basically it. No pun intended. As far as Tim Curry playing Pennywise, I can understand why that would come off as kind of an iconic performance of the character. He wasn't scary, and I don't really find clowns scary. I can see how someone with that kind of a phobia might be scared of it. What I don't understand is if basically the hook with this with Pennywise is that he can transform into all the character's fears. I don't understand why he chooses to be a clown more than anything else. Like why everybody sees him as a clown at first. I don't know if the book explains it, if there is an explanation for it. I don't know. But I think that's the one flaw, is it's very hard to take seriously. And the way that Tim Curry portrays it, and the one that I believe Skarsgård is the guy who plays it in this film, they're two very different performances, just in the same way that Heath Ledger's Joker is very different from Jack Nicholson's Joker. There's no base for comparison, even though they're playing the same character. The performances are night and day, and I don't know which one. This one, the one in the current version, is definitely scarier, both through the makeup, the performance, and kind of the creepy way he moves. Whereas Tim Curry moved like a regular person and was a wisecracking jackass, basically. Very entertaining to watch, but it didn't really make that movie, the 1990 version, scary. So with this version, I guess I'll start with the cast, and I don't know everybody's names. I liked all of them. There were a couple of throwaway characters. There's the the black kid, I can't think of the character's name, but they didn't really give him a lot of screen time. And there's like seven, I think there's seven main kids, the losers, and then you've got, not including the bullies. So that's a lot of characters to follow, and they followed some more than others. But generally, when these characters were together, I had a great time with them. I love the Beverly character. I really hope when they do the sequel and they start doing telling the story from the adult's point of view, I really hope they cast Jessica Chastain, I think that's her name, from The Martian and Interstellar, because she looks just like the younger Beverly Marsh in the first movie, who did a great job, the actress who played her as the kid. But I love Jessica Chastain in those two movies, so I really hope they cast her, because I think that'd be perfect. Everybody else, I don't really know who could play them as adults. I'm dreading that because, again, I thought the adult portion of the TV series was the weakest part. And even reading the novel, because I'm sure you know by now, the 2017 version is a linear story. It follows just the kids. Whereas the TV series and the book, they switch back and forth between the adults and the kids, because the kids' portions are supposed to be flashbacks, but there's so much story there that it doesn't feel like a flashback. It's just a very weird way, a structure for narrating a story like this. But aside from that, I thought it was genuinely creepy. I liked pretty much all the scenes with Pennywise. I can't, because I'm not coming off of it fresh. I saw it like the first week it came out, which has been like 3 weeks now or longer. So I'm trying to just remember things from memory. There's not one part that really stands out, except the end when they fight Pennywise. That was pretty cool when they go down and you see all the bodies floating, because Pennywise is always making this comment about down here we all float. And I don't think that actually happened in the TV series. I haven't gotten that far in the book yet. But when you see all the kids floating around, they're actually floating, and it feels very sci-fi. So I like that aspect of it. They also played it off that maybe some of the kids could have survived. I don't see them really going anywhere with that in the sequel, but it'd be interesting if they tried to, get away from the source material a little more in the next one. Again, I haven't read all the way through. I'm not that far into the book, but in a 1,200-page book, I'm about 250 pages in, and there's not a lot that's happened yet. And there are characters being thrown in that I know aren't even main characters. So it's really bizarre. I would recommend this for a good Halloween watch for sure. It's actually something I wouldn't mind seeing again when it comes to video. And I don't say that about a lot of movies. Like the Marvel movies, I see them once and I'm good. Because they don't have they don't have a lot of rewatch value aside from like Guardians of the Galaxy. But I wouldn't mind revisiting it a couple more times. Not a lot to say about it, without spoiling a lot. And again, I don't remember a lot about it, but not because it was like bad or forgettable. It's just been a while since I've seen it, and I'm still trying to get caught up in the book. Yeah, great cast. I like the look of the film. I like the fact that they were trying to relate to people from my generation, because it takes place in the 80s. In the original book and the TV series, it starts in the 60s when they're kids, and then it goes 30 years later into the late 80s when they're adults. So in the movie, as I'm sure you've heard, it starts in the 80s so that when the sequel comes out, it'll take place today, which I kind of like. I like any movie that takes place in the 80s, whether it's done well or not. And usually it's done fairly well. Like, Hot Tub Time Machine parodied it a little bit. But this movie, it doesn't really call a lot of attention to it. The most attention they throw at it is that Derry's a small town, so there's a movie theater, and they usually, when their kids are walking past it, on the marquee, you'll see like Batman, Nightmare on Elm Street 5, because this is a New Line Cinema picture, so of course it makes sense for them to have a poster of Nightmare on Elm Street at that time. Lethal Weapon 2 came out that same year. It's 1989 is the exact year that this story takes place. So I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot more to say about it. Aside from the fact that, yeah, the tone is kind of off kilter, but I feel that the book was like that too, and I like the fact that the tone switches back and forth from being humorous to scary, because you don't know what to expect. A big criticism that I hear a lot is that, oh, the film doesn't know what it wants to be. Well, I understand wanting a film to have a consistent tone, but there's a lot of movies out there that are great that don't have consistent tones. We just like them because they're entertaining as hell. I can't think of one off the top of my head. One of my favorite movies is Toxic Avenger. That has kind of a weird tone to it, and I know it's a trauma movie, so it's not even considered a B movie, but there are movies out there that are really enjoyable that don't have a consistent tone. So a movie not knowing what it wants to be, if the movie is still entertaining, which I thought this was, I'm perfectly fine with that. There are movies that are like, there are parts of this movie that are comically, they come up from nowhere, like the scene where they have the big rock fight between the losers, and I think Henry is the main bully in this. His gang, there's a rock fight between them, and the way it's done, there's a shot where it's done in slow-mo. It takes you out of the movie a little bit, but I thought it was real fun. And it kind of cracked me up. And I like movies where I can be scared, but then I can relate to the characters and I can kind of crack up too. There are some uncomfortable moments, but they don't take it too far. Again, I've tried to avoid major spoilers from the book because I hear there are some really intense scenes in the book that neither adaptation has really taken yet. So I'm kind of interested to see what's in the book that I'm missing. But I feel from what I've heard that this is a pretty faithful adaptation. So if you're looking for a decent movie, and I always say, if you've seen like Chucky and Freddy and Jason a million times and you want something a little different, check this out because it's pretty cool. Thanks for watching, and keep tuning in because I'm going to try to have, not every day, but I'm going to try to do some more horror reviews impromptu like this for the rest of October. So have a good October and see you for Halloween.